Yo, how's it going, YouTube? My name is Marcus Russell, and this is the Marcus Russell Show. Did you know that health is actually more important than wealth? Health is wealth. A long time ago, like when I was a kid, I never was into athletics. I never played basketball. I never got a gym credit in high school. As a matter of fact, I went to boys' school and prison from high school. If you follow my channel, you know that. There's nothing pretty much to do in there but work out, read books, and eat and just talk shit to each other, right? All right, so I've been working out since then. So when I got out, I never used drugs because I sold drugs. And I ain't want to mess with my money. As you know, I need this money. And so I just wanted to be very much in shape. I was young, I was immature, but I still wanted to be in shape. Like in case the police chase me. When police chase me, I could do a mile in like 12 minutes, nonstop. And also, so from that lifetime of working out, and also a lifetime of just being doing negative stuff, crime, being in the street, I eventually got shot. Somebody shot me in my face, in my neck, right here, went through my spinal cord. I used to be way bigger than this. I used to be like this. I used to weigh a good 200. I'm like 180 now. I still work out, but my point is, I think I might have survived. Well, God bless me, but I survived the bullets because I was so healthy. I was in great shape. As a matter of fact, I never started using drugs until after I got shot, and they started giving me perks, to deal with the pain, like 100 of them a month. Then after like 6 months, they was like, "We don't want to give you no more pills because we don't want you to get addicted." What? We don't want me to get addicted? It's too late. But I don't take drugs no more. I still work out though, because it's a lifestyle, and we have such a unhealthy lifestyle. It's a shame that it took that walk of life for me to get a healthy lifestyle. But I don't eat McDonald's. I don't because because I treat my body good. You know what I mean? I work out. If I'm not on the road, I work out every single day. I used to go to Planet Fitness. Now I go to Vasa. But this video is about health and food. Basically, RFK Jr., he's the new FDA, or it's called the HHA now, but he runs that. But did you know that JFK, his uncle, actually started the council on physical fitness? His nephew JFK, I mean RFK Jr. said that Uncle Unc started noticing that Americans were getting hefty, fat. And he said his uncle felt like, how could this be the home of the brave if we're too fat to fight? Which makes sense. And, even though RFK will probably, cook some roadkill, any roadkill, and he sometimes sound like he might have swallowed a vibrator. But for real, he's a 71-year-old career politician who's in shape like these 35-year-old construction workers I be working with. And how do I know this? Yo, right? How do I know he's big? Look at this dude. He's 71 years old. If this is what eating roadkill gets you, man, at 71, I might start eating roadkill too. I'm trying to get like that, man. Yo, seriously, predisposed and chronic health conditions derived from America's culture of unhealthy eating habits is the reason why so many people passed away during the pandemic. But like RFK Jr. said, like RFK Jr. said, 75% of American kids cannot qualify for military service. How are we gonna maintain our position with global leadership with such a sick population? All right, my bad. My name is Marcus Russell. This is the Marcus Russell Show. Typically, the director of the Food and Drug Administration doesn't literally change what's available to eat in America. But that's why Robert F. Kennedy started a whole new conscious culture in America. HHA. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Let's get right to the video.
We have an amazing team at HHS. When my uncle was president in the 1960s, we had the healthiest people in the world. And one of the basic assumptions of our country was that because we were robust people, because we were vigorous, because we were tough, we had what my uncle called this beef jerky toughness that was responsible for our country being the land of the brave and the home of the free, the greatest industrial power in the world, the wealthiest country. We owned half the wealth on earth when my uncle was president, and part of that was because of the vigor of our society. And that's one of the reasons he started the Presidential Council on Physical Fitness, because he saw that he felt that Americans were getting soft, and it was going to steal from us and erode all of our leadership, our moral authority, and our values, and our role as an exemplary nation. And, and since his death, we've had this extraordinary chronic disease epidemic. When my uncle was president, 3% of American kids had chronic disease. Today, it's around 60%. And these are a broad category, the ones that Marty mentioned, like ADHD, the neurological disorders, ADD, ADHD, speech delay, language delay, tics.
Facts.
Tourette syndrome, narcolepsy, ASD, and autism. All of these are injuries that I never heard of when I was a kid. They were not part of the nomenclature. They weren't part of the dialogue. There was zero spent in this country treating chronic disease when my uncle was president. Today, it's about $1.8 trillion annually. It's bankrupting our nation. 74% of American kids cannot qualify for military service. Well, how are we going to maintain our global leadership with such a sick population? We have all these autoimmune diseases, these exotic diseases that, again, I never heard of: juvenile diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, Crohn's disease, and 100 others that were just unknown when I was a kid. I never knew anybody with a peanut allergy. I never knew anybody with a food allergy. I do 5 of my 7 kids have allergies. I never knew of anybody who had eczema. I knew of a very small number of children who had asthma, but that has exploded as well today. And our fertility is dropping dramatically. Teenagers in this country today have the same testosterone levels as 68-year-old men. Our girls are reaching puberty 6 years early, from 10 to 14 years old. And this is existential for our country. And we have to address it. And one of the problems, when I met with, and I want to commend the food companies for working with us to achieve this agreement or this settlement. And when I went in a few months or about a month ago to meet with a few food companies, I was talking with my staff about these petroleum-based dyes, and I said, if they want to add petroleum, if they want to eat petroleum, they ought to add it themselves at home. But they shouldn't.
How did they even start putting petroleum in the food anyway, man? Crazy, man. That's crazy,
without our knowledge or consent.
Right.
And unfortunately, we're gonna get rid of the dyes, and then one by one, we're gonna get rid of every ingredient and additive in food that we can legally address. One of the problems is that the industry, which all of these industries cast a dark shadow historically over this agency. And there's so many conflicts that we are now systematically eliminating. That has allowed them to suppress the science. There's shockingly few studies, even on food dyes, and on all these other ingredients as well. And Jay Bhattacharya, who is here and who is running, the director of NIH, is now narrowly targeting these kind of food additives for scientific study, so that one by one we can start eliminating them where they can. Where we can't, there's things that we'll never be able to eliminate, like sugar. And sugar is poison, and Americans need to know that. It is poisoning us. It's giving us a diabetes crisis. When I was a kid, I always say this, A typical pediatrician would see one case of diabetes in his
In a
lifetime.
lifetime.
Today, it's 1 out of every 3 kids who walks through his office door. In our most recent study from NIH, 38% of American teens, half our adult population. This is existential. We are spending as much on mitochondrial disorders like diabetes as we spend
As
on our
we do on
military
a
budget.
military.
We
It's
can't
crazy.
continue to exist like this.
We
And
won't.
the problem is industry is making money on keeping us sick. As Jay pointed out, ADHD is associated with all these behavioral disorders. But those disorders are treated not by changing our diet, but providing medications to treat our kids.
They're trying to keep them on the drugs.
And medicated, and that's the only solution. And, I would point out that there is part of the etiology of these diseases is a kind of media malpractice, a mass psychosis that has our media not talking about this.
You hear this?
And
Mass
one of
psychosis.
the possible reasons for that is the amount of money that's coming from the pharmaceutical companies into our media and from these food companies or the advertising.
They all working together. They all working together to keep us sick and keep us on their drugs.
Has at least plays a factor. So that revenue, that extraordinary revenue stream, in disabling their capacity or their inclination for skepticism and for critical thinking. So Americans don't know what they're eating, and they don't know the implications of those things. And for those products, Mark Hyman says in his book, the 10-day sugar detox diet, which I'll give a plug to, is a very good book. He talks about how dangerous sugar is and how it's as addictive as crack. And our children are addicted to it from when they're little kids.
We all are.
Agency recommends, I think, a huge amount of sugar for kids from when they're born.
As soon as they're born.
And it's hurting them, and it's addicting them, and it's changing their taste buds so that they crave it. And it's disabling our population. So for those ingredients that we can't ban legally, we're going to start informing Americans about what they're eating. And we're going to try to work with Congress and the White House to make sure that we have adequate labeling so mothers who go into the grocery stores know what is good for their children and what is not. I want to say one other thing about the moms. When I went and spoke for the first time, and I met with the heads of all the food industry companies, one of the things that they said to us is that the worst thing for us is if we have a patchwork of legislation in all these different states, because then we're not capable of marketing nationally distributed products, because we're going to have different regulations in every state. And they didn't want that, and that's one of the reasons they came to the table with us.
Yo, I remember when they was calling RFK Jr. a quack and a conspiracy theorist, especially when he was contesting the COVID shot. I ain't take that shot neither, you know what I'm saying? But even before I researched the changes that RFK and his new HHA is trying to make, my soul had confirmed that what he was saying was the truth. Like, it's definitely true. You know what is actually crazy? It's crazy. Remember when AOC and was on that new Green Deal stuff, and they was talking about getting rid of beef because the cows' emissions was affecting the atmosphere. But beef ain't really killing us. Salt and sugar and all these weird ass additives that we definitely should not be ingesting is what is killing us. You know what I'm saying? They are literally poisoning us. You hear him say they got petroleum in this dye that he just got rid of. Why would you put petroleum in some food? Who first tasted that? And do you know, YouTube, that most countries don't even allow they companies to poison their citizens? Like, you can't have that. Like, potato chips in Asia is like little real, like apples and banana chips and stuff like that. For real. And what's crazy, this is what's even worse, YouTube, America. we already know that this food is killing us. You know what I'm saying? We all know that these chronic diseases, and now they're linking stuff like ADHD and like all them disorders. They're linking that to asthma, food allergies. They're linking that to years worth of poisoning ourselves off of this sugar and weird additives. So we know we're killing ourselves with the food, but we're addicted to it, you know. And it's a culture. But if it wasn't available, eventually we wouldn't crave it no more. It wouldn't exist. And at least for generations, I agree with everything this man is saying. I hope he can pull it off. It's crazy because they say he was a quack, but he is possibly making the most important political change in American history. Period. Period. It gives me chills to think about it. If he actually can pull some of this stuff off, of the longevity of the future of America becomes even longer, just from removing them being able to work together and poison us and then keep us on drugs from the poison that they gave us. You know what I'm saying? And like I said in the very beginning, typically the director of the Food and Drug Administration doesn't make changes to American to society. You know what I'm saying? So that's why he had to make changes to the HHA. And so, now he can make a way for a new age in American health. And so all them naysayers who who was saying he's a quack, he's definitely getting the last laugh now. And that's probably why he called it ha. Ha. For real. Yo, my name is Marcus Russell. Thank you for tapping in with me. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Until next time. Peace.